So we're just gonna jump right into the interview, and you need to tell me about how things have been for you during this COVID-19 crisis, the shelter-in-place, whole pandemic, just a general overall.
At first I was pretty excited, to stay home and not really go to school or work and everything. But throughout the, quarantine stay at home, it got really boring and depressing, and I really miss seeing my friends and my loved ones.
Are you an essential worker?
Yes, I am. I work in food service, and I feel like I am an essential worker. Yes.
What kind of risk conditions do you face at your job?
I see people every single day, and a lot of the time you never know if they do have COVID or they don't have COVID. So I feel like I'm exposed to COVID almost every single day.
And what access do you have to personal protective equipment?
Pretty much all I have access to is masks, gloves. There's no really anything else that protects me from anything.
Um, what are you most worried about?
I'm most worried about obviously getting COVID and transferring it and giving it to my family.
What has been most changed about your work?
We used to do you could taste things and give samples, and now we don't have that. We don't have a lot of the things that we used to sell, and we keep a really big distance between us and the customers.
What are the best things about having a job you have to leave the house for, despite the pandemic?
I just like really being out in the world. When I'm cooped up at home, it's really hard for me. It's really depressing, and also getting my own money.
What are the hardest things about having a job you have to leave the house for, despite the pandemic?
I do have to drive there, so I guess driving is also always a risk, and um, it's always a risk. You never know who comes in.
How have your interactions with customers and clients changed as a result because of the pandemic?
Um, Usually we would have customers taste the ice cream, and I usually try to conversate with customers a little more, but because of the pandemic, we try to get them in and out as fast as possible.
How has your workload changed as a result of the COVID-19 crisis?
My workload is a lot more because we spend a lot more time cleaning and making sure everything's sanitized, and we have a lot more things to do in the store rather than going out and getting them.
How has your job or profession shifted based on the responses to the COVID-19 crisis?
We've gotten a lot less customers because people are afraid to come in, and it's really hurt our business a lot, I would say.
And what fears have you faced with responding to this?
Um, I guess it's, of course, always the fear of getting COVID, and, there's a lot more risk of getting sick, or that's really it. Just fear of COVID mostly.
How has the pandemic changed your relationship with your coworkers or with your boss?
I actually don't really see my coworkers as often I used to because I do work alone. I also see my boss a little more because she's always at the store, because usually she's out doing something or meeting with clients, and now she doesn't really do that anymore.
And what kind of conflicts are you coming up with at work?
It's always uh, how are we gonna make money, because it is so slow, and it's really been difficult having customers come into the store.
And what kind of leave do you get, sick leave do you get for your job? If so, is it paid?
I don't get any sick leave from my job. If I do get COVID, then I would have to quarantine for 2 weeks, and I would not make any money.
And what would happen if you or someone in your care got sick?
Probably we would have to quarantine. I would try to stay away from my family. I also would not be working, which would be really difficult because that would be either like 2 weeks or more of not getting paid, and it'd be really hard.
Okay, now we're gonna shift into talking about your home life. So walk me through a typical day during your shelter in place from when you get up to when you go to bed.
If it's a day that I'm working, I usually get up around 9 a.m., shower, brush my teeth. I would get ready for work, and I would get into my car, making sure I have masks and everything that I'd be able to wear into work. And I would go to work usually from about 4 to 8 hours. Um, Usually throughout the day, I'm sanitizing or doing a task for my boss. And usually when I'm done, again, I would sanitize the whole store, clean up, and then I would drive myself home usually around 8 or 9 o'clock. And then I would come home, wash my face, brush my teeth, and usually I just go straight to bed because I'm usually really tired.
And what is your current living situation?
I currently live with my parents, my two sisters, my brother, and my grandmother.
And do you live in an apartment, a house?
I live in a house.
And what do each person in your house do?
Um, Me and my sister work together. My older sister does not work. My younger brother is still in high school, so he does not work. My dad is a civil engineer, and my mom is a security guard at Intel.
How have the shelter in place or the stay at home orders influenced your relationships and routines with the people that you live with?
Because I'm at home a lot more, it's gotten me a lot closer to the people in my family because we have a lot more time to spend with each other rather than before where I had school and work, or I'd be hanging out with my friends or something, so I'd never be home.
And how often do you spend time with your family on the average day?
Um, on the average day, probably about like 4 hours minimum a day with my siblings, and like about an hour or two with my parents.
And what do you guys do?
A lot of the time we just sit around watching Netflix or on social media, or that's pretty much all we do. We don't really leave the house.
And how has the stay at home order affected your romantic relationships?
Well, before Corona, I'd be able to, go out, meet people, go on dates, but since I'm not really going out or meeting anyone, it's been a little slow.
And how has this affected the romantic relationships of the people that you live with?
Probably I would say the same. If anything, it's online dating or online texting, so it's not really the same.
And what kind of conflicts are coming up at home?
I don't really believe there's any conflicts coming up at home. Of course, there's always the worry that someone's job will shut down, so there's always going to be financial conflicts, but nothing other than that.
Next, we're going to shift into the economic impacts due to the COVID-19 crisis. So starting off with our first question, how have you or anyone you've known lost employment due to income due to the crisis? Tell me about that and how are you managing?
My sister has lost one of her jobs because she used to work at a cafe in Apple, and because there is no Apple employee, she lost her job. And my other sibling has also lost their job because they used to work with kids.
And how has this affected your family income?
They used to make a lot more. Right now they're mostly my older sister's relying on EDD, which is hard because um, it's getting less and less, and when it shuts off, or when she stops getting EDD, then her income goes away too.
And how much cushion do you have if you are losing income?
I don't really have any cushion because I live paycheck to paycheck, so losing my job would be very hard.
And how long could you be out of work before you're facing foreclosure, eviction, hunger, etc.?
Probably around 3 weeks to a month.
What are your biggest struggles economically?
Can you elaborate what economically means?
Like financially?
Probably, not being able to put food on the table and not being able to pay my car or my rent or anything, and, losing that, and it would be a really hard struggle.
And what's the dynamic in your household surrounding spending money or stocking up on resources during the COVID-19 crisis?
We try not to really overstock. We buy what we need because that's that's what we financially have. We buy what we need, and the rest we can just get at a later time, or if we don't need it, we just don't get it.
What is your health insurance or health care situation like? Do you have any worries about this?
I get my health insurance through my father's company, so if my father's company were to close down, then I would not have any health insurance.
And what would you do if you did not have health insurance?
It would be really hard for me personally because I do try to see my doctor about every couple months, and I do have some medication that I do need to take, so I wouldn't be able to get that.
Overall, how would you say that the COVID-19 crisis has affected your economic situation? How has it affected how you think about your own economic position?
Before I didn't really, think about money all the time, or I thought about money all the time, but I don't think I would think about it as much as I do now, or like I'm not always worried about, if I get COVID, then what am I gonna do, or what are my parents gonna do? So, yeah.
What has COVID taught you about your own privileges?
It has made me realize I am privileged because both my parents are still able to work their jobs. I'm still able to work my job, but it also makes me realize that a lot of people do not have jobs right now, and they are struggling more than I am right now, and it's made me realize I am lucky enough to be able to have food on my table every single night.
What has it taught you about your own disadvantages or vulnerabilities?
It's just always made me, again, it's always just comes back to money, if I don't work or I can't work, then I won't be able to, eat or have anything, or pay my car, or anything, or go anywhere.
How does your social positioning impact your ability to receive necessary goods or services when there's an increased panic from coronavirus anxieties?
I remember at the beginning of Corona, it was really hard to get anything because grocery stores were empty. We couldn't get food or water. Sorry, can you repeat the question? I forgot.
No problem. How does your social positioning impact your ability to receive necessary goods or services when there's an increased panic from coronavirus anxieties?
Yeah, exactly what I meant. It's always that fear of people are gonna freak out again, and there's not going to be any food or water in grocery stores, and I won't be able to get anything, and that's always my biggest fear.
And what did you do when that happened?
I really couldn't do anything. I traveled to a lot of grocery stores trying to find what I'm able to get or what I'm able to need, until they are restocked again.
What do you know about how people in economic or job situations different from your own might be experiencing this crisis?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. What do you know about how people in economic or job situations different from your own might be experiencing this crisis?
I know a lot of people that are working essential jobs also, grocery stores, doctors. They are more, what's the word? They're more, they're more at risk, that's the word, to get COVID. And sorry, I forgot the question again.
What do you know? Excuse me. What do you know about how people in economic or job situations different from your own might be experiencing this crisis?
Sorry, can you tell me how to answer that question? I'm a little confused.
Yeah. So, what do you know about people who are in different situations than your own?
Oh, sorry, yes. I just know that, everyone is struggling right now, and I feel like I'm not the only one in this position where they are always in fear of what if I can't work, or what if I get COVID and I'm not able to pay my bills or get food on the table, and it's really hard for everyone.
And what do you think people in drastically different jobs are experiencing now?
I know a lot of people are probably experiencing stress, because a lot of people are working from home and they're not used to that, or they're not working at all. So I'm stressed, and I have a job, so a lot of people are even more stressed than I am at the moment.
And who do you consider to be an essential worker and being who's compensated?
I think grocery store workers are essential workers, doctors, firefighters, um, anybody who works in the front lines of where they're exposed to people every day. I believe they're all essential workers.
And how have you been affected by the government's stimulus package passed during the pandemic?
I thought I was going to get the stimulus package, but because I'm a college student, I wasn't able to get it. And during that time, I wasn't working. So it was a huge struggle for me, expecting to get money that I was able to, pay my bills with, and not getting it.
Okay, next we're going to shift into some questions about technology. So, what is your knowledge about the access to technology that you might need during this time?
I obviously would need my phone for communications. I also need my laptop for school and work purposes.
And how stable is your internet connection?
I believe it's very stable.
And have you learned any new technologies because of the COVID-19 crisis? And what has that been like for you?
Um, I had to learn how to use Zoom, and at first it was really difficult for me because it was a new technology that not only was I not used to, but my teachers weren't used to, so it was a big struggle, um, what's the word? Shifting to using technology instead of being there face to face every day.
Now we're going to shift into some questions about social lives and well being. How do you feel connected to others right now?
I don't feel very connected to others. Usually, I would speak to people face to face. I'm not really a big technology, texting, FaceTiming person, so it's been really hard for me to, communicate and connect to others.
And how are you sustaining your relationships?
I try to text people as much as I can, um, even though it's like maybe once a week or once a month. Uh, my my friends and family understand that I'm not really big on technology, so they understand that I'm not communicating with them just because I can't or won't.
And how do you feel that's affected your relationships?
I have lost a lot of friendships due to not seeing them every day. A lot of the friendships that I had were from school, so not seeing them every day shifted my relationships with them, and a lot of my friends I've actually stopped talking to just because I'm not even sure.
How have you been taking care of yourself during this time?
A lot of self-care, I try to focus on my skin, my hair, a lot of relaxation, candles, reading, whatever I can do just to like give myself some sense of like comfort.
And how have you been taking care of yourself and loved ones during this time?
I try to take care of my loved ones, usually by spending time with them, and that's even self-care for myself because I'm surrounding myself with the people that I love and care for.
What has your mental health been like during this pandemic?
My mental health has deteriorated a lot. It's better now, but most at the beginning, or yeah, towards the beginning of COVID, I got really depressed because I wasn't really seeing my friends as much, and I was so used to being able to go out when I needed to and have things available to me, but they are not anymore, so it was really hard.
And what physical and mental changes have you noticed as a result of the pandemic?
Um, Physical, I would say at the beginning I used to just eat when I was bored, and it made me gain weight, and then I got depressed and I actually stopped eating, and it was really bad toll on my mental and physical health because I wasn't eating or sleeping as much.
And what changes are you making now?
I try to focus on myself, focus on what good I have, making sure I do eat, and trying to make myself stress free as much as I can, so I do have better toll on my mental health.
Now we're going to go and discuss some changes over time. So I would like you to think back to the day when you first learned about the pandemic and stay-at-home orders. Tell me the story of your thoughts and feelings when you first found out.
At first, I was really excited. I didn't really understand what COVID was, and I just really enjoyed not going to work or school, and I was just really excited.
How has it changed now?
Um, Now I actually really do miss going to school every day. I never thought I would say that, but I do miss, being interactive and learning things face to face instead of online.
What do you remember about those initial weeks of the pandemic? What were they like for you and for your loved ones?
Um, at first I was just really excited, I tried a lot of new things, I tried to do a lot of cooking, and I just tried to make myself busy.
And what was it like for your loved ones?
I tried to had them join with me to try new things. You know, we were bored all the time, so we really tried to keep ourselves busy.
And what would you say has your attitude changed in comparison to when the first stay-at-home orders were issued last March?
Well, I would definitely say that I don't have as much energy anymore because I'm very bored now, and so are my loved ones. We spend a lot of time just, watching Netflix or watching videos instead of being active.
Walk me through some of your feelings within the last 9 months. What was different about your feelings now than when you felt at the beginning of the shelter in place?
Well, now I definitely just want the shelter in place to be over, but I know that's not going to happen, but I don't want it just to be over to be over. I want COVID gone, and I want to feel safe going out again.
What has been difficult about being so home so much? What is meaningful about it?
I would say what's difficult is, being bored all the time. As much as I do love my family, we're just around each other all the time. It gets kind of irritating. And what was the other part of the question? Sorry.
What has been meaningful about staying home so much?
What's been meaningful is, although sometimes I do get irritated with my loved ones, I love spending time with them and being with them all the time, and it's made our relationships deeper.
And how have your relationships changed since the beginning of COVID?
I would say I didn't really hang out or talk to my loved ones or my family as much, and now I do spend more time with them because they're the only ones I have, and it's become special to me.
And how do you feel the pandemic or distance learning has changed you?
The distance learning for sure has changed me because I realize it's been really hard for me, and I learned that I am not a good distance learner, that I do need to be in a classroom to learn, so it's been hard adapting to that.
And how do you feel the pandemic has changed your perspectives on health, work, family? Let's start off with health, work, and family, and we can continue on.
For my health, I didn't really think about my health as much as I do now. I'm always, when I get a cold, I'm like, oh my god, do I have COVID? I get tested as much as I can. My work, I used to actually love being at work, but now I guess it's not the same feeling because a lot of my work was interactive, and it was going outside of my job and going to different companies, so it's made me like it a lot less. But my family, I do love them. I would say I do love them more because I've had a better understanding for them, being able to spend time with them.
And how has this changed your perspectives on gender, education, and politics?
It hasn't really changed my perspective on gender because I believe in equality for gender. Education, I realize that the education system does not really believe in its students because during this pandemic they are not really changing anything. A lot of people have been understanding, but it's not as understanding. And for politics, I was never really into politics, but for sure because of this pandemic I've been paying attention more to it, and it's made me realize that everything is about politics, and politicians don't really care about their people.
And how have the pandemics changed your perspectives on other people, our country, and teachers?
The first one is our people.
Yeah, other people, yes.
Other people, well, it's made me realize a lot of people don't really care for everyone. They just really care for themselves. A lot of people that are partying in the pandemics. Our country, I didn't always believe that our country was the greatest, and during this pandemic, seeing how it's reacted and how it's not really cared for its people made me realize that our country could be doing a lot better. Our teachers, I will always care for our teachers because they are trying their hardest, to help their students as much as they can in this difficult time. So I really appreciate them.
Now we're going to switch into some questions about intersectionality. So the first question is, how does your physical ability affect your life during the COVID-19 crisis? Think of access to transportation, having compromised immune system, getting the necessary medications, treatments, the strain on resources, etc.
Sorry, can you start on the first part and we'll go into parts so I can remember what they are?
How has your physical ability affected your life during the COVID-19 crisis?
My physical ability, it hasn't really changed, but you said something about transportation. And before the pandemic, I didn't have my driver's license because I didn't mind going on public transportations. But since the pandemic, I did not feel comfortable going into Ubers or buses or anything of that sort. So I got my license because it is safer for me and my loved ones.
And has this affected your access to getting necessary medications or treatments?
Not for me personally, no.
How do you think your gender has shaped the pandemic's effects on your life?
I believe my gender has, obviously not politically because politics are full of men, but my gender, doctors, teachers, healthcare workers, anybody has really shaped this pandemic, leading as an example.
And how do you think your racial or ethnic identity has shaped the effects of the pandemic on your life?
I would say sorry, what was the question?
How do you think your racial or ethnic identity has shaped the pandemic's effects on your life?
My racial identity for sure because I am a black woman, and at the beginning of the pandemic, but America really has shown Black Lives Matter and all the protests and everything. So I think racially, as a black woman in America, it's shown a lot.
How do you think your age has shaped the pandemic's effect on your life?
Before the pandemic, actually, I don't think my age has really done anything.
Do you think because of your youth, the pandemic has done nothing for your life then?
No, I would say my youth, it's been a lot harder because I am still in school, I'm in a essential workers job. I feel like if I was older and I would be able to, if I was older, I'd be working from home and I wouldn't be in school right now, so.
While government leaders stress the message of we're all in this together surrounding the COVID-19 global pandemic, it is also important to recognize how COVID-19 impacts already vulnerable populations, such as the elderly, those with compromised immune system, poor and marginalized people. Now, how do you fit into this picture?
Personally, I don't feel like I fit into the picture at all. I don't feel like they care about people my age or people of my race because they have not been helping us at all during this pandemic.
Now we're going to do some overall reflections on the pandemic. So what surprised you the most during this COVID-19 crisis?
What surprised me the most is just the way people have acted. A lot of people have acted like this pandemic hasn't really done anything, or they haven't really changed their lifestyle in this pandemic. A lot of people are still partying or going out and they don't really care.
And what are you most worried about?
I'm obviously just most worried about getting COVID or being not financially able to live my life.
And what do you need to feel less worried?
Probably just stability. For COVID to be over, or the government funding, so I don't have to be working, so I don't have to be worried all the time.
And what do you need to feel less worried? Did I just say this question?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. What do you need to feel most grateful for? What do you feel most grateful for? Sorry.
I'm just most grateful for my health. I'm most grateful for my family and my loved ones. And I'm most grateful, just for everyone that is working in the pandemic right now.
And what are your hopes for the future?
My hopes for the future, pandemic-wise, is just for the pandemic to be over. My other hopes for the future are just to be in school again and be able to go back to a classroom and be able to be safe.
What do you miss most about the times that you can't wait to get back when the pandemic is finally over?
I'm very excited to see my friends, and I'm very excited to travel again because I haven't been able to do that as much since the pandemic.
What about your life has changed during the pandemic? Do you hope to keep even after the pandemic has ended?
My relationship with my family and my relationship with my friends, mostly.
Next, we're just going to shift into some demographic questions. So, what is your current job?
I work as an ice cream scooper for a small company.
And what level of education have you received?
I've graduated from high school and now I'm in college.
What is your current living situation? Do you rent or own your house? Who do you live with, etc.?
I rent my home and I live with my parents and my siblings and my grandmother.
Where do you live?
I live in San Jose, California.
What is your racial/ethnic identity?
I am a Muslim black woman.
What is your gender?
I am a female.
What's your sexual orientation?
I am straight.
What's your marital status?
I am single.
How many children do you have?
0.
What is your personal annual income?
Probably about 10,000 a year.
And what is your household income?
About 200,000 a year.
How do you identify your class position?
I am a junior in college. Oh my god, I'm middle class.
And what's your age?
I'm 22 years old.
We're just gonna wrap up here. Is there anything you wish I had asked you or anything you'd like to talk about?
No, I do not have anything that I wish you asked me.
Okay, thank you for letting me interview you. Thank you for your time. This is the end of the interview.